I did read your book in its entirety, and I got the impression that it was part therapeutic for you and part self-help for others. How big of a role did this book play in overcoming your divorce and get back on track?
You know, when I decided to write the book, it had been probably 2 years after I had filed for divorce, and my divorce was settled. But, you know, at the time, being in a public relationship with Hulk Hogan was difficult, you know, to keep anything personal. And I just felt like at the time, you know, with my kids involved and everything else, and just there was a lot of personal issues, I just felt that it really wasn't the right time for me to come out and tell my story during all of the drama and stuff. It was just, I didn't want to embarrass my kids. I didn't want to make it worse. You know, like pouring salt in the wound. It was bad enough as it was. And, you know, and I didn't want to turn it into a mudslinging fight on top of it. And so I figured, you know, my husband's written 2 books. He's told it from his point of view. And I thought, you know, there's got to come a time where I'm going to be able to talk and tell my side, because I felt that, you know, with not being able to speak, it's not that it bothered me. I was getting better on my own. It's just that I felt that, yes, I could help other women out there. I could, if they knew what I was really going through, you know, behind the scenes. It's what a lot of women go through every day, millions of women. You don't have to be a celebrity or be famous, you know, to have this happen to you. This is going on in a lot of households nowadays. And, you know, I think that America has just got a kind of a zero tolerance for it now. It's just gotten out of hand. And I thought, you know, now's the time to tell my story and tell how I feel about it and what I did about it.
Great. Now, have the kids or Terry read your book? And if so, what was their reaction?
No, it's not out, and I haven't let anybody even peek into what I've written yet. But you know what? It's not going to really surprise too many people, because the near and dear relatives and friends that we did have know that this kind of stuff existed, as did my kids. And, you know, certainly Terry's no stranger to this. Of course, you know, he's going to probably, you know, deny a lot of it or twist it like he did in his books, but that's okay. You know, that's his prerogative. I'm still able to get out what I felt. It's very forthcoming. It's very honest. And it's my accounting of what I went through from my standpoint, you know.
Yeah. So you start a book signing tour on June 28th, and your first stop is in Ridgewood, New Jersey at Bookends. Are you nervous about the... Yeah. You know, are you nervous about the possibility of coming face-to-face with a bunch of 40-year-old man-boy Hulkamaniacs?
Well, you know what? You're right in saying that there's Hulkamaniacs out there. There really are. I mean, Terry was, I call him Terry, was my ex-husband, but, you know, he is an icon, and he was out there for 25 years as a world champion and, you know, an idol to a lot of people. And that's, you know, that's not going away anytime soon. And this is the kind of pressure that I've had to come up against. So, yes, I'm ready for it. I get a lot of people on my Twitter and my website and stuff that are Hulk Hogan fans, diehard Hulk Hogan fans. You know, but they just, they don't want me to hate on him, and I don't hate on him. You know, I think that when people read my book, they'll realize that it's actually a love story. I talk a lot about, you know, the good things that we had, you know, and it's a sad thing that it's all gone, you know, that it's gone away. So, yeah, I know that not everybody's going to agree with what I have to say or how I feel about things, but not everybody's going to agree with you. So I do know that when people read it, they'll probably realize that, you know, hearing what's going on in America today with all these celebrities, these athletes, these politicians, it definitely does go on. It's conceivable that it went on with me and Terry years ago, even before it was brought to the forefront like it is now. And it was going on, and I had to deal with that silently and privately. And it, you know, had I up and left and filed for divorce 10 years ago, I don't know what would have happened. You know, I mean, he was just branching out into his career. I had 2 very small children. We had just gotten done building our new house in Florida, and you know, it's scary. You know, this empire that you work together on. Just pulling the carpet up out from under you, you know, it's like I felt that it would be a very selfish move for me to do back then. And I thought, you know, I'm a tough person. I can just kind of grin and bear it, and I'll forgive him, and we'll move on. But, you know, that it's always like a little aching in your side that just never really goes away, and it changes things for sure, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I noticed in the book, being married to Terry for almost 24 years, it leads me to believe that you could have told a lot more stories and probably in greater detail. I mean, were you forced to hold some things back for legal repercussions, or can we expect more from you in a second book?
Yeah, I could have, gone complete mudslinging in this book, but I didn't. I chose not to. It's a true accounting of what I went through and what we went through in our marriage. There's no need to exaggerate. It was, crazy enough as it was, what you'll read. And, I don't know if it'll shock people. It may shock some people, but it's just not that strange today, and by today's standards, let's just say. But yes, when I was going through it, I certainly didn't want to make things worse at the time. As far as the second book goes, where my book ends this time is kind of, where I've just found happiness and I've kind of figured out, how to move on with my life. And the next book is going to be a very positive, uplifting book, kind of more related to a cougar kind of a thing, a positive cougar thing.
Well, that's a good segue then, because I was going to ask, when an older woman dates a younger man, she's known as a cougar. However, when an older guy dates a much younger girl, he's considered, kind of creepy. So why do you think there's more social acceptance towards cougars?
It's interesting that you should say that and take that twist on it, because I've heard a lot of negative things about it too, I'd like to think only positive things, but, cougar, they've given it a nickname, and I don't know how that all started, even when I started dating Charlie. They're like, oh, you're a cougar. I was like, I took it as an insult. I was like, what does that mean? Like a cat on the prowl, basically, and I kind of took offense to that because I thought that really wasn't how it all went down. And I feel like the world is a little bit more accepting of older men dating younger women. It seems like it's just been accepted for so long, Hugh Hefner and whoever else out there that's older that dates younger girls, really a lot younger girls, and somehow that's accepted. This is kind of the last little platform that America, I think, is not really that comfortable with. They just don't see it. I think it's because women are moms. Like I've got two kids. One's 23, one's 21. My boyfriend is 22. It's crazy, but, I didn't plan it that way. It's just when you're in a place in life where you're alone and you're sad and you're hurting, you reach out to anybody that's willing to kind of help you, or listen to you. And, I was in a pretty desperate place for a while, and, Charlie really was somebody that I could lean on, like a soulmate. And he helped me out of that gloomy part of life that I was going through, I think if women and people, I think if people realize that, you're not doing it to just piss your ex off, you're doing it, it's a life-saving choice, it's a healthy choice, it's a positive thing,
Now, you being a cougar, in your opinion, what are the pros and cons of dating younger men?
Well, I was definitely not expecting to meet somebody that was his age, and in doing so, I thought he was older, when I first met him. But some of the stuff, you can't expect them to have the knowledge of somebody that's 45 or 50 years old. So, but on the other hand, that's kind of the refreshing thing, is that they have that young, vivacious kind of, caution to the wind with, they're not all crabby and they're not locked into their ways. I mean, it's a fresh breath of air. And I've really enjoyed, dating somebody younger. I have a lot of energy. I'm kind of young acting, and I like to go. I snow ski. I like to take the kids everywhere I go with me. And Charlie just seems like he fits the bill. He's able to hang with me. He keeps up with me.
Well, I'm also Italian, so I have to ask you two important questions.
Okay.
The first one is, what do you call the stuff you put on your pasta, sauce or gravy?
Well, if I was from New Jersey, I'd call it gravy, right?
Well, there's a big debate here about that.
If you're from the East Coast, it's gravy. And I don't know where that originated from. I'd like to know, but it's so funny because Steve Preget, the guy that helped me write my book, lives in New York and Jersey, somewhere in that border area there, and that's his hometown, and he's very Italian. In fact, he wrote a book about Italians and stuff. It's called Shut Up and Eat. That was the name of his book. And he calls it gravy. And I said, gravy? You know, we think of gravy as like on mashed potatoes. It's the brown meat sauce. That's what I think of gravy. But back there, that's the gravy. We call it sauce over here. My grandma and my Italian family calls it sauce. I don't know. What do you call it? What do you call it?
Yeah, I grew up calling it gravy, you know, but I've also called it sauce. Kind of use it like interchangeably, you know. Apparently,
sure.
A lot of people refer to it like as Sunday gravy if you put meat in it, and if it's without meat, it's just sauce.
Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, good. Good bit of information.
And then the other Italian question I had for you is, do you fry your meatballs or do you let them simmer in the gravy or sauce?
Oh, no, you got to fry those suckers, okay? You get the meat, you make the little meatballs, okay? You got to put some onion in them and stuff, a lot of garlic salt. That's my whole family's thing is the garlic, okay? And then you brown them. Everything they do, they brown it in oil. And actually, you know, my grandma used to use plain old Crisco because it really browns everything great. I use olive oil. I'm doing the healthier choice, and they don't come out as brown, but I do. I kind of just roll them around. I don't know, how do you say, twirl the frying pan. You kind of swirl them in the oil, and I brown them up, and then I soak them in the sauce. Then you let them simmer in the sauce.
After everything you went through with Terry during your marriage and stuff, I was just curious, how come you decided not to go back to your maiden name?
Well, honestly, it was just really because it was a hassle. It was just a hassle, you know. I mean, between going through the divorce and just lawsuits and my son being incarcerated in jail and my daughter living in Miami and her singing career and just taking care of all of the business. You know, I've moved 11 times since I filed for divorce. It's a lot of change. And, you know, to sit there and start changing your name and then your every credit card and every bill and every you know, it's like I just had so much else on my plate. It just was not important to me. You know, and secondly, my kid's name is Balea, and, you know, I'm their mother. It's like I'm fine with the name. I don't hold any grudges to that or anything. It's just I've had it for 24 years. Well, now longer than that, but it's my name, you know. Now, I don't know how Jennifer feels about that.
Who cares what she thinks, right?
Exactly my point. You're funny.
So now, back in the day, you know, Terry was pretty much the poster boy for steroids. And now, I know a guy will never admit this, so that's why I'm asking you, since you were married to Terry for so long. Did you notice any type of negative effect from Terry's steroid use in the bedroom?
I think I know where you're going with that. And, you know, I think that... Yeah, no, actually I didn't. You know, I mean, there really wasn't any kind of, not in the bedroom sense, you know. I mean, there were side effects that I noticed that I think were just in general, you know, and I think these are just generally speaking side effects that these guys go through, and I've heard that, you know, it all shrivels up and stuff like that, and what do you want to call them, the little pomegranates? They kind of do get smaller, you know. But it doesn't, I don't think it inhibits the performance, let's say. But I think that ultimately what's not so great about that is that there's a rush of testosterone that goes through their system, and they just get this aggression and this, I would say maybe could turn into a rage. Depends on what you're doing. If you happen to be arguing, it's not good. It takes it from a little tiny argument to just over the top, you know, and you definitely, I learned my lesson that it's not the kind of person that you want to try to get the last word in with. You just basically kind of just back up and just let them come down and go the other direction. But, you know, there is a lot of, side effects that people are not aware of that come with that, and they're serious. They're serious, not only physically for the person using them, but for the people that are on the outside dealing with them. So, yeah, it was difficult.
Well, I know you have mentioned during the book, you know, quite a few times about, you know, Terry kind of going into a rage. I mean, were you ever, like, really scared that he was, like, going to physically hit you or anything?
Yeah, there were times that, you know, arguments would escalate into more physical type situations, you know, and I'm not saying that it was like an open hand slap or a knocked out Mike Tyson style. It was just a bullying kind of a thing where, I mean, maybe, they'd squeeze your arm or you'd get, you'd poke your face or just poke you back in your chest until you're backing up into a corner, It was just too hard for what is acceptable, to me. In my book of expectations, when I was a kid, my dad and wallop me and my brother and sister, he'd take off his belt and wallop us all across the butt. But, back then that was accepted. But in marriage, when you have a spouse that is physical with you and verbally degrading you, that is a form of abuse, as minimal as it seems. I just figured that as long as I wasn't walking around with black eyes, that everything was okay. But everything really wasn't okay. And I really shouldn't have tolerated it as long as I did. But, that's just part of that, I guess, bullying, bruiser, persona that comes with somebody being a fighter.
Yeah. So now shifting to the reality show, like you mentioned in the book that you were behind the scenes for so long. Was it difficult for you to adjust to being in front of the camera now?
Actually, the best thing that I ever did was be behind the scenes. That's what I'm really good at. I kind of stand back and I can see, what a situation needs, or if they're when we started. Well, it even started back when Terry was wrestling. He would get up on camera and I'd say, "Oh, you know what? That looked good. Your arm looked really good that way," or "That T-shirt was hot," or "I loved that last interview," or I was kind of like the little cheerleader behind the scenes. And then when we started filming the show, it was kind of down to just where are we going to film? Let me fix that room up real cute. Maybe light a few candles. Help the kids with their hair. Help pick clothes if they were following us to a red carpet event. I had to make sure all the clothes were there. It was really fun. It was a lot of work, but it was fun for me to see my family in a situation like that. As for me, being in the show, I felt completely awkward at first. It was just not I don't know how to explain it, but I'm not really. I'm the one usually taking the picture, not in the picture. I'm not comfortable being in the picture, but after a while, the way that VH1 portrayed us as a family, they found the lighter, funnier side of us. And I really look back now, and I enjoyed so much, doing that and having those situations with my kids and my family that, a lot of people say in reality TV, they say, "Oh, that was what broke us up. It was just, reality TV. It causes divorce and stuff." And I would have to say that at the last season that we were filming down in Miami, that thank God for the show, because it actually brought us together. We would get up in the morning, and even if we were sort of not really thrilled with each other that morning, we would start filming, and, one conversation would lead to another, and we'd laugh, and it was almost like you sort of forgot your problems, and you were so in the moment that it actually kind of helped ease things along. So I really enjoyed working with VH1 and the Pink Sneakers film crew that was filming us. So now that I'm not in the back of the picture anymore, and I'm in the foreground, I've gotten used to it a little bit more, but I still don't feel like I'm a celebrity or a star. I don't know. What have I done? I was married to one, but but as far as my book goes, I feel like, my message, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a star, I'm not an author, really. I guess I am now, but I just felt that, my experiences by coming out and talking about them and answering questions that women really want to know about and being forthcoming about it and not, leaving it up for guess. I explain things pretty clearly in the book, that it could help people, and maybe either mend their marriages or mend their lives, one or the other.
So now, what have you been up to since you finished the book?
Well, the book took forever to write. It was, it took about a year, actually. And, I really wanted to make sure that everything was right, the timeline and stuff, because everything that we were doing at the same time was on TV and it was in the news. And I know that a lot of people will recount situations and go, "Hey, wait, people are smart." So I wanted to be clear about all that stuff, and it took a long time. But as soon as that was done, I celebrated with a bottle of champagne. I was like, the book is done. It's finally done. And then I started remodeling a house in California, and it's got avocados. I have an avocado farm on this property here, and it's just kind of a whole new life. It's a new twist I'm a farmer.
Well, all right. Well, I don't know if you've seen it. I'm sure you must have heard about the psychotic videos that the Ultimate Warrior has been putting out on YouTube. And I was just, he mentioned that you and Terry had an open relationship, and if you had any comment on that.
My only comment is that everything he's saying is a complete false, fabricated story. I've never even met this man. I've seen him behind the scenes at some of the wrestling events 20 years ago. And, he's never been to my home. My kids have never met him. I don't really know him. And I can't imagine why he would come out with something so vulgar. But nonetheless, it's typical of somebody that's trying to get back in the spotlight doing something for shock value. Anybody that does something for shock value really isn't really a true celeb. They've got to go stoop that low. And secondly, he has to pick on poor Hulk Hogan, because if he doesn't, who's going to listen to him? If he was talking about an understudy or another wrestler that people didn't know so much, if people even remembered who he was, So basically, I think that's going to be, he's going to be sorry. He'll regret everything that he's doing now. So I'm going to be at Bookends in Ridgewood at 7 p.m. on Tuesday. All your listeners can get more information on me and my signing at lindahogan.com. And Frank, I love you. I can't wait to meet you. Thank you so much for having me on your show.